I'm going to give you a demonstration of how this process will work, and then over the rest of this program, we'll work up to that. Broadly, we're going to take a journalistic approach. And we're going to focus on the natal chart, because that way you're going to be able to use these tools in your own life. Because really, the favorite subject of any story is, me. So we're going to make this about you. So you can test this, you can experience this, you can apply this to yourself. And you're going to learn how to connect a personal story to an astrology story. We are going to work with some very fundamental elements of the language of astrology. We're going to explore how the planet, the modality, the element, and the house answer specific questions. The journalistic approach. Each part of the language of astrology answers different questions. We're going to look at what else, how, which, and where. These are not the only questions astrology can answer. These are the only questions that are relevant in natal astrology. There are other questions like who and when that are more applicable to other types of astrology. Along the way, you're going to learn how to build a foundation of happiness, and you're going to assemble a happiness GPS. This is going to use your unique birth chart. And this GPS is going to give you turn-by-turn directions to the best possible outcome in any situation, again, using your birth chart. This is active, dynamic, practical astrology in a way you've probably never experienced it before. This is a demonstration, so I'm walking you through an example of how this works. Just sit back and enjoy the story. I promise you, over the course of this program, every part of this will make sense. But right now, here's a demonstration of how we're going to tell an astrology story. And we start with a personal story. So I'm going to use my birth chart, and we're going to take a personal story, an external goal. I'd like to pay off credit card debt. Pretty common goal. So the first step, we need to connect my personal story. We need to connect that to the astrology story in some way. And credit card debt relates to the 8th house. So the 8th house is the what, because the 8th house relates to all forms of debt. In my chart, Capricorn is on the cusp of my 8th house. So now we have the nucleus of the astrology story. So this story is going to relate to my Saturn, because Saturn rules Capricorn. My Saturn is in Aries. It rules the 8th house. It's in the 10th house. This is the beginning of an astrology map. So now we have this. Now we know the what is my credit card debt. We've got it connected to the astrology story. We know that it relates to my Saturn. We're not going to look directly at Saturn. Now we're going to start answering some questions. How do I approach my credit card debt? How is the first question, in fact, we're going to ask. How is a question that gets answered by the modality of the sign. My Saturn is in Aries. Aries is a cardinal sign. So we build a story using a cardinal modality story trope. Story tropes are little fragments of story, and we're going to be combining these to answer the question. So one of the story tropes with cardinal is archery target. I approach this particular goal, in this case, I approach my debt as if it's an archery target, because the planet that's in charge of this is in a cardinal sign. So if you take an archery target approach to something, you've got one shot, one arrow. The goal has to be achieved in a single shot. So I'm going to make lots of attempts to hit that target, and I expect to be wasting a whole bunch of arrows. But until I hit the target, I don't make any progress. If I hit the target, I take a giant leap forward. But it's an all or nothing approach. Now, the obstacle with this particular approach is that it's an all or nothing approach. If the target is too far to hit, I may give up. That can be a little bit discouraging because I'm always looking for the one thing. What's the one project that is going to make me enough money that I pay off all the debts? How do I pay all of this off at once? That's always how I'm going to approach that goal. I could move the target because I can't change the fact that I'm always going to approach my 8th house debts as a target. But I could move the target closer. I can break up the debts. I can set a target as an individual debt, and that way I can leap forward. This is absolutely how I approach debt. It completely describes my approach to this, and I've now got a practical solution. I have the challenge, I'm struggling with this goal. I'd like to pay off my credit card debts. Why am I having so much trouble? Well, one of the reasons I'm kind of approaching it like an archery target and thinking I've got to pay off everything all at once. Maybe, and I don't feel like I make any progress unless I hit a target. I understand that now because of this story, I could move the target closer. I could break this up into smaller targets, so I'm still skipping a few steps, but the targets are closer. I can hit a target and leapfrog over that. This is the critical moment here. This is where it's really important to pay attention to whose side of the consultation you're on. If you're on the client side of the consultation, if what you are looking for is an answer, you're done. I got an answer. I have a piece of information that is practical and useful. I have a new strategy. I understand the shape of this challenge. I understand more about it. And I've got something I can do about it. I don't need any more information. I want to go say, I can rearrange this. I want to go work on that new project. That's enough. I can come back to this. But from a client, I got my answer. I'm done. Bye. From an astrology perspective, we're like, but there's more astrology. We can complete the map. And you can. And when learning astrology, it is useful to expand these things out. But the point of astrology is get the answer, not explore the chart. Once you have the answer, you're done. That's an answer. Sometimes it's that simple. Now, we're here to learn. I'm demonstrating what else literally can be accomplished with this. But that story, that chunk of ridiculously practical information comes just from the modality of the planet. One little thing, something that, hand to God, for 20 years, I never looked at. Because who paid attention to the modality of the signs? And now it's like, you're going to be blown away by what you can do just with these modality teams. But let's continue. So that answers how. The next question we can answer is which. The element tells me which language I speak for my debts. So Aries is a fire sign, so I speak a fire language for my debt. One of the story tropes for fire is on fire. So when I approach my debts, the story about my debts has passion and intensity and urgency because it's fire. When something catches on fire, it's kind of an emergency. You have to respond immediately. You have to contain the situation or it could wreak havoc. It could burn everything down. You have a personal emotional stake in the outcome. Yes, that absolutely describes how I approach my debts. My debts take priority. My top priority when I'm dealing with finances, when I'm dealing with financial goals, is always pay what I owe, pay off the debts first, then I can worry about other things. And so there is an intensity to my debts and my stories about debt that make it very, very immediate. And it doesn't always need to be a crisis, because instinctively, oh my God, my debts are on fire. I should be, I need to put it out. The alarms are going off. Oh, okay, it's a fire, but is it really in danger of burning things down? Maybe not. I can look at it differently. I understand just the fire aspect of it. And that gives me information about, maybe I can engage with this story a little bit differently. Maybe there's some more information here. The next question we can answer, where? Where do I explore my stories about debt? Where is the solution to my debts? Where do I engage with these stories? Well, the where is the house the planet occupies, and Saturn, in charge of my debts, is in my 10th house. The 10th house relates to professional success, career, business. It is public. It is fame and publicity. It's advancement and promotion. It's awards, 10th house activities, any time spent on social media, time spent on my own business or my company, especially with marketing and promotion. So what does this tell me about my debts? Well, for one thing, when I engage with my debts, it's public, clearly, because I'm talking about them in this class. So I'm not, I broadcast it. It's a public thing. It's a part of my career. Clearing my debts could be something that's going to support my reputation. It's a public thing. It's going to help me to advance in my career. Maybe I look for a solution to paying off my debts by building my business. All of these are possibilities. That's just the beginning of this map. But now we have an understanding of 8th house stories. And by the way, this is not limited to my credit card debt. We've got a map that covers 8th house. The 8th house covers other things. 8th house is any kind of debt. So, I did a favor for a friend. I'd like to collect on that favor now. Well, guess what? That personal story of collecting on a favor that I'm owed, I've already got the map for that. I know that collecting on that favor, I'm going to do that like an archery target. This is not an incremental thing. Whole thing's got to be paid off at once because it's a target. Probably have a pretty intense emotional stake in it. There's a little bit of urgency because of the fire. And it's a big thing. If my friend doesn't repay my favor in a timely fashion completely, I will probably post about it on Facebook in the 10th house. Same answers applying to a different personal story.